I found out I was technically responsible for 42,000 euros of someone else's debt while standing in my kitchen, holding a mug I don't even remember pouring. It started with a phone call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Is this you?" the woman asked, reading my full name like she already knew the answer. "Yes? I'm calling regarding your overdue account." I laughed. Actually laughed. I said she had the wrong person. She didn't. She listed my address, my ID number, my signature. That's when my stomach dropped. Because I never signed anything. But I knew exactly who might have. My younger brother had been staying with me for 3 months at that point. Just until he gets back on his feet. That's what I told everyone. That's what I told myself. Back then, life was simple. Stable job, small apartment, quiet routines. No drama. No chaos. I should have known better the moment he showed up with only a backpack and a story that didn't quite add up. But he's my brother. And I trusted him. When he first showed up, it felt almost nostalgic. We hadn't been close in years, but seeing him standing at my door, tired, thinner than I remembered, something in me softened instantly. He said he'd lost his job. Said things? Just spiraled. Didn't go into details, and I didn't push. That was my first mistake. I gave him my spare key by the second day. He started calling me the only person he could count on. Which felt good. I won't lie. Like I was finally doing something right in this family. Growing up, he was always the reckless one. I was the stable one. The responsible one. I guess I leaned into that role harder than I should have. There were small things, though. He was always on his phone, stepping outside to take calls. Sometimes late at night. Sometimes whispering. Once I asked who it was. "Just sorting stuff out," he said. I nodded. I didn't ask again. I think part of me already knew something wasn't right. I just didn't want to be the kind of person who doubts their own brother. The first real crack showed up about a month in. I came home from work and found him unusually tense, pacing the living room like he was waiting for bad news. He tried to play it off, but I could tell something had happened. "Everything okay?" I asked. Yeah, just job stuff," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. That became his default answer for everything. Job stuff. But there was no job. At least, not one I ever saw evidence of. No interviews. No emails. No routine. Just long absences and even longer phone calls. Then there were the letters. At first, I thought they were mine, same address, after all. But the names weren't mine. Different names. But always delivered to my apartment. I asked him about it once. "They're old accounts," he said quickly. "Nothing serious." He even smiled, like I was overreacting. And I let it go. Because confronting him felt exhausting. And honestly, I didn't want to hear an answer that would force me to act. So I ignored it. Like an idiot. The day the second call came, I wasn't laughing anymore. Different number. Same tone. "Final notice," the man said flatly. "If the balance isn't addressed, legal action will proceed." I remember gripping the counter so hard my fingers went numb. "I don't have any balance," I said. "You've made a mistake." He didn't argue. He just repeated details. My details? Then he mentioned a loan agreement signed 6 weeks earlier. 6 weeks. That's when my brother was already living with me. I hung up and just stood there, staring at nothing. When he walked in later that evening, I didn't even greet him. I just held up my phone. "Do you want to explain why I'm being chased for a loan I never took?" He froze. Not shocked. Not confused. Just still. That silence told me everything before he even opened his mouth. And suddenly, all those job calls didn't feel so harmless anymore. They felt like something closing in. He didn't deny it. That's what hit me first. No confusion, no. "What are you talking about?" No attempt to act innocent. He just sat down, ran his hands over his face, and said quietly, "I was going to tell you." That sentence. I swear it made something snap inside me. "When?" I asked. "After they take me to court? After I lose everything?" "It's not like that," he said quickly. "I just needed time." "Time for what? To fix it? Or to bury me deeper in it?" He flinched, but didn't answer. That's when the truth started spilling out in pieces. It wasn't one loan. It was several. Different lenders. Different names. Some under his, some under mine. I felt sick. "How do you even do that?" I asked. He shrugged. "It's not that hard." That hurt more than anything. Not the debt. Not the risk. The fact that violating my identity, my life, was not that hard to him. Like I was just an option. I kept asking the same question over and over. "Why me?" And he kept giving different answers. I didn't have a choice. I was desperate. I thought I could fix it before you noticed. Each one somehow worse than the last. At one point, I just started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because I genuinely didn't know how else to react. "You used my name," I said. "My ID. My address. That's not desperation, that's a decision." He got defensive then. "You think I wanted this? You think I enjoy owing people money?" "That's not the point," I snapped. "You made me owe them too." That's when he finally raised his voice. "You have a stable life. A job. You'll survive this." I remember going completely quiet after that. Because in that moment, I realized something ugly. He didn't see me as a victim. He saw me as a safety net. Something to absorb the impact of his mistakes. And suddenly, every memory of us growing up felt different. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, going through every document I could find, every email, every missed call. It felt like my entire identity had been quietly hijacked while I was busy living what I thought was a normal life. Around 3 a.m., I opened one of the letters he had brushed off before. Final demand. Legal warning. My name. I checked the dates. Some of these accounts were opened before he even moved in. That's when the ground really disappeared under me. "You've been doing this longer, haven't you?" I asked the next morning. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, barely audible, "Yeah." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "So you came here already knowing I was part of it?" "I needed somewhere safe," he said. Safe. That word stuck in my throat. Because what he meant was, somewhere he could hide. And I had handed him that place without a second thought. I wasn't just dragged into this. I had unknowingly been carrying it for months. I started digging deeper after that. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to know how bad it really was. I took a day off work and called every number that had contacted me. Some were aggressive, some almost bored, like this was routine for them. Each call added another piece. Another loan. Another account. Another version of my name tied to something I never agreed to. By midday, my hands were shaking. By evening, I couldn't feel them at all. When I confronted him again, I had everything written down. Amounts. Dates. Names. "This isn't a mistake," I said. "This is a pattern." He didn't even try to argue. Instead, he looked tired. Like he had already accepted something I was just beginning to understand. "They're not just banks," he said quietly. That made me pause. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. And for the first time since all of this started, I saw actual fear in his face. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. And somehow, that was worse. I wish I could say I stayed calm when he said that. I didn't. "What do you mean, not just banks?" I asked, already feeling my chest tighten. He kept looking at the floor, like if he didn't meet my eyes, it wouldn't be real. "Some of the money, it's from private lenders." "Private how?" Silence. I stepped closer. Say it. He swallowed hard. People. Not institutions. I felt this wave of heat rush through me. You mean loan sharks? He didn't answer, but he didn't have to. I started pacing, trying to process what that actually meant. This isn't just credit scores and paperwork anymore, I said. This is dangerous. They won't come after you, he said quickly. I actually laughed again, that same hollow, disbelieving laugh. They already are, I snapped, holding up my phone. Who do you think's been calling me? That's when he finally looked up. And for the first time, he didn't try to reassure me. Because he knew I was right. Everything escalated after that. The calls stopped being polite. No more scripted voices or formal warnings. Now it was blunt. Direct. Pay or we come to you. One of them even described my apartment building. The entrance. The floor. I didn't ask how they knew. I already had a pretty good idea. I confronted him again, this time barely holding it together. You gave them my address, I said. I had to, he replied. They needed a contact. A contact? I almost choked. I'm your sister, not collateral. They won't hurt you, he insisted, but his voice lacked any real conviction. You don't know that, I said. You don't know anything. That night, I locked my door for the first time since he moved in. Not because I thought he'd hurt me, but because I realized he had already put me in a situation where someone else might. And somehow, that felt worse. Because I couldn't predict it. I couldn't control it. And I couldn't trust the one person who brought it into my life that I started avoiding home. I'd stay late at work, sit in my car for an extra hour, even walk around the block just to delay going back inside. My own apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. Every sound made me tense. Every unknown number made my heart race. And the worst part? He acted like things were manageable. We just need time. He kept saying that word again. Time. Like time was going to magically erase tens of thousands of euros and people who clearly didn't forget. One evening, I came home and found him on the phone, whispering again. But this time I didn't walk away. Tell them the truth, he said. I'm working on it. There was a pause. Then his face changed. No, she doesn't have anything to do with it. My stomach dropped. Because that meant my name had already come up. I waited until he hung up. Who was that? I asked. He hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything I didn't want to hear. I wasn't just involved on paper anymore. I was part of the conversation. That night turned into the worst argument we've ever had. I didn't even recognize myself, yelling, shaking, saying things I didn't think I was capable of saying. You need to fix this, I told him. Not eventually. Now. I'm trying, he shot back. Trying isn't enough when people are threatening to show up at my door. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing like a trapped animal. You don't understand how this works, he said. Then explain it, I demanded. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've destroyed my life. That's when he snapped. I was covering for someone else too, okay? Everything went quiet. What does that mean? He hesitated like he'd said too much. But it was already out. There are other people involved, he admitted. Bigger debts. Bigger problems. I felt my stomach twist. So I'm not even at the bottom of this? He didn't answer. And somehow, that made it even worse. After that, something in me just shut down. The anger burned out and left this heavy, numb exhaustion behind. I stopped arguing. Stopped asking questions I wasn't sure I even wanted answers to. Instead, I went into survival mode. I contacted a lawyer. Froze what accounts I could. Reported identity theft, even though saying those words felt like betraying him, which is ridiculous, considering what he'd done. But that's the thing no one tells you. Betrayal doesn't cancel love. It just twists it into something painful. My parents got involved eventually. That was another disaster. My mother cried. My father barely spoke, just looked at my brother like he didn't recognize him. And somehow, in the middle of all that, there was still this unspoken pressure on me to handle it calmly, to not make things worse. As if things weren't already completely broken. As if I hadn't been dragged into something I never agreed to carry. I started realizing that this wasn't just his mess. It was becoming mine in everyone else's eyes too. He moved out a week later. Not because things were resolved, but because I couldn't breathe with him there anymore. We didn't even have a proper goodbye. He just packed quietly, avoided my eyes, and left his key on the table. "I'll fix it," he said before walking out. I didn't respond. I didn't believe him. The calls didn't stop after he left. If anything, they got worse. Now I was the only one here to answer them. To carry the tension. The fear. The constant uncertainty. Work became unbearable. I was distracted, anxious, constantly checking my phone. I started having trouble sleeping. Then trouble eating. Friends noticed. I lied. "It's just stress," I said. Because explaining the truth felt too heavy. Too complicated. Too humiliating. How do you tell someone your own brother used your identity like a tool? Like you were just another option in a desperate situation? The worst part is, some days I still miss him. And I hate myself for that. It's been almost a year now. Some of the debt is still hanging over me. Some of it got sorted legally, but not without damage to my credit, my savings, my sense of security. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. I don't trust easily anymore either. My brother and I barely speak. When we do, it's surface level. Careful. Like we're both pretending none of this really happened. He still says he's working on fixing things. I've stopped waiting for that. What stays with me the most isn't even the money. It's how easily trust can be used against you by someone who knows you best. How love can blind you to things that, in hindsight, feel obvious. If there's anything I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the people you take a risk for are the same people who quietly decide you're a risk worth taking. And you don't realize it until you're the one paying the price.